Hello and welcome. In this video, I will show you how to use the Evolv AI Web Editor to build and test a simple project to optimize a website. We'll look at how to create a context, add variables and variants, create and modify components, use custom code, and verify your changes by performing QA. Let's get started. We'll go ahead and create a context to kick things off. When it comes to optimizing for the web, a context is simply a page or group of pages where you want to test your ideas. You might want to optimize the home page, a product or category page, or even a component such as the global navigation or site-wide buttons. Context can get much more complicated when you introduce other attributes, but in this video, we'll focus on just the URLs. Enter the URL of the page you want to use. If there are multiple pages, just use one of the URLs you need. When the page loads, click Create Context, and the context panel will appear. Give your context a name. I'm going to call mine Homepage. You can use the path match options to include other pages if required. Make sure you add reference URLs to check that your path match settings are including or excluding the correct pages. Hit Save when you're done to close the context panel. It's time to start setting up your ideas. We'll build a project that you can configure and launch in the Evolv AI Manager. A project is really just a collection of experiments, where each experiment is a different hypothesis intended to affect the same audience and conversion metric. In the Evolv AI Web Editor, these experiments translate to variables, and each variable contains variants that you want to test to prove your hypothesis and increase performance while your project is running. To add a variable, hover over the context and click the plus button. Give the variable a name. I want to experiment with different button styles on this page, so I'll call this variable button style. I can now add my ideas as variants. Hover over the variable and click the plus button to add a new variant. I'll name my variant box, because that's the button style I want to test. The existing style is rounded, which is what you see in control, so I'll rename my control variant to rounded. That way I can be reminded of what my variant is testing against. You can add as many variants as you need. Now that I have my variant, I can start making changes. The easiest way to change an element on the page is to add a component and modify its style properties. Click on the Add Component arrow and watch what happens when you move your mouse across the page. It's automatically detecting page elements. Let's hover over the CTA button and select it. The component's properties appear on the side. I want to change all the CTA buttons, not just this one. I can fix that by changing the selector. If I click here, I can edit the selector and change it to something that will capture all the buttons. There we go. Now we can change all the buttons at the same time. I want the buttons to resemble a box, so I'm going to change the border radius to something small. 4 pixels should do the trick. Wow, I can see the changes already applied. And I can tell one of the component's properties is different because the label's background changed. If I click the label, there's a reset option if I want to remove the change. Let's pop that 4 pixel size back in. You can change all sorts of properties here. Look how the border color updates as I change its color, and how the typography changes too. Let's see how the change we made to the border compares to control. You can click between the variants to compare them. Notice how the CTA styles update and revert automatically. The power of Evolv AI comes from its ability to test lots of ideas quickly and with less traffic compared to traditional A/B testing. To take full advantage of this, you can include more experiments and ideas in the same project without needing to test everything separately. I'll add another variable to try and enhance the CTA buttons further. I'll call this one button icon. I plan to add an icon next to the button text to make it more appealing. I'll add a new variant and name it Ferris wheel. Huh? How can you add a Ferris wheel to a button? With emojis, of course. I can select the button component we made earlier. However, as you can see, there's nothing in the UI about adding icons. Not to worry, if you click on the Code tab, you'll see that you can add custom styles and JavaScript to the variant. Here's how we can use CSS to add a Ferris wheel to our buttons. Who wouldn't want to click that? Before I launch my project, I want to check that it's working correctly. The Evolv AI Web Editor has a QA mode where I can test my project under real-world conditions. Go to the drop-down on the top right of the screen and select QA mode. You'll need to have an Evolv AI Manager account for this. Enter your details to continue. The panel on the left shows all the test variants, their variables, and even the contexts. It tells me which context I'm currently matching. We only have one context in our project, but if I navigate to another page, you can see the homepage context no longer matches. When I go back to the homepage, I see it's a match again. To test the variants, click on each variant in the list and hit the play button to load the page. After the page loads, you will see the variant render correctly. Be sure to test each variant on its own. You can also create a combination to simultaneously test multiple variants from different variables. The system generates combinations like this during the optimization process, so you must know that different variants will work well when rendered together. Here's our beautiful new CTA button with a smaller border radius and fancy Ferris wheel. That's it. We've built the project and everything renders as expected. It's now time to save and prepare to load the project in the Evolv AI Manager.